Hello, I'm Todd Hall, President and CEO of TrueLiant. As we mark our 70th anniversary in 2022, we reflect on a rich history that would not be possible without the support of the great city of Winston-Salem. From our humble beginnings in 1952 to the present, where we will soon serve over 300,000 members, hire our 1,000th employee, and exceed $4 billion in assets, to a future poised for continued growth, I am proud of the work we are doing together. TrueLiant is grateful for and remains committed to Winston-Salem and all of Forsyth County.
Welcome to the Greater Conversations podcast. I'm Deetra Miller, the Director of Member Relations and Engagement at Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. We'll use this platform to showcase our local businesses, our community, and their stories. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. It is my pleasure to introduce some, and some may already know this famous man from Winston-Salem. Yeah, Mr. Lou Baldwin with Baldwin Properties. Thank you so much for being here today.
Good morning, Deetra. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Lou, I am really interested to know a little bit about you, but before we jump in about your background, tell us a little bit about Baldwin Properties and what you guys do.
Glad to. Baldwin Properties has been here since 1928.
Wow.
And we specialize in the professional management, leasing, and sale of commercial and investment real estate. So on the management side, we manage both residential, like single-family homes and apartments. On the commercial side, office, retail, a lot of downtown properties, some smaller shopping centers in the area, and that type of thing. And
Wow.
We're also very involved on the investment end of it and working with developers and investors, and downtown redevelopment certainly been a big part of my practice. So my grandfather came here in 1926 from Savannah, Georgia, because Winston-Salem was a boom town and R.J. Reynolds was doing so well. And he went to work with Smith Deal Realty, which was a company that was really in the middle of a lot of the things going on here. And he stayed with them for 2 years and then started my company in 1928. So we're heading towards 95 years old here soon. And I've owned the company for about 34 or 35 of those years.
That is amazing. Tell me, you mentioned downtown Winston-Salem, and you've been doing that for about 25 years, redeveloping downtown, right?
Or more, maybe.
I should say helping in the redevelopment, not doing it alone, but totally in that. What interests you most about downtown Winston-Salem?
So I grew up coming downtown, which a lot of people didn't that are in my age group or any of our age group back in that day. But our office was downtown, so I would come downtown to see my grandfather or my father's office, and the Pepper Building at times, and the O'Hanlon Building at times, and then up in what was the Singer Sewing Machine Building on 4th Street at different times. And I would walk around downtown and see how dead it was. Mm-hmm. And I dreamed a lot when I was a kid that these empty buildings and dusty downtown could be something more. And when I got out of college at the University of North Carolina and came to work in the business, I set about on a civic standpoint to get involved in downtown redevelopment. We didn't really have downtown redevelopment at that point, but the what was at that time known as the Downtown Winston-Salem Association was right next door to our office on 4th Street. So I would wander in there and see Glenda Keels, who's now the late Glenda Keels, but she was a legend in the early days of downtown redevelopment, and she was the director of that organization. So literally on a civic basis, I got very involved in saying we need to do something about this downtown. In 1990, Mayor Martha Wood created the Winston-Salem Downtown Development Corporation. And it was really, I believe, the start of this era of downtown revitalization. And I was very fortunate as a younger person to get appointed. She appointed me as a representative of downtown business owners. But a lot of the I'm going to use the word poobahs, but Reynolds executives, Wachovia executives, large business and governmental leaders were who was on this Downtown Development Corporation, and along with me getting to be at the table as an initial incorporator and founding board of directors member, and we wrote the very early downtown plans. It was all dreams. It was almost hard to imagine that we would really be successful and that things would come about that we were planning in those days. but I had the opportunity to serve on there for the first 6 years of the DDC.
Wow.
And those dreams have come to fruition and then some with what's going on in downtown redevelopment.
That's awesome. You touched on the part about a lot of poobahs around the table, and then there was you, very young. Just a quick question. How important is it for folks that usually don't have a seat at the table, these small business owners, to be involved in something that's happening in their community?
Well, it's what building community is all about, is having different members of the community, a diverse cross-section of our community, business owners, not business owners, political, nonprofit, and business leaders, or maybe folks that don't necessarily consider themselves a leader, but to be at the table and contributing to that process. And I really recommend it to anyone. I got very, very involved, downtown redevelopment, realtor organization leadership, when I was really young. And it ended up really benefiting me because I learned from those people I was around the table at. Mm-hmm. Some people say, well, go be successful in your career and then go get involved, when you've done that. And I really recommend turning that upside down. Get as involved as you possibly can afford time-wise to be, because you're going to be learning from the people around the table, learning how they make decisions, learning how meetings can be productive, and then apply that for the rest of your career.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about how your life was shaped growing up. So here you are in a family that is a real estate empire, if you will. That's why I'm going to call it today. But talk a little bit about your upbringing here in Winston-Salem.
Our family philosophy on that has really been what I am applying toward my sons, who are 17 and 25, which is I want them to follow their passions and dreams and their gifts and what they're interested in doing. Neither of my sons have ever felt any pressure from me to go into real estate. And I didn't feel pressure from my father to do that. It's never been a business that was handed down to the next generation. I mean, my father had 5 brothers and sisters, and,
wow.
and there was no way they were going to give one of them the business. So he bought it, I bought it when I took it over in 1989, and we've always tried to do that at an arm's length transaction. I kind of fell in love with the process of buying a business when I did that, and I've done that about 12 other times and plugged smaller property management companies and other real estate companies into what we've grown during the time that I've owned the business. But so I grew up in a real estate family, yes. Was there talk of real estate around the dining room table? Yes. Was there some osmosis going on? Did I go down and start working in the office when I was 12? Yes. And I know that sounds like somebody being pushed into real estate, but it really never was that way. When I went to UNC, majored in economics, I didn't go there thinking, I'm going to go back and go into the family business. Had some really good job offers out of college and gave them serious contemplation. But this one did seem like something where I might have an opportunity down the road to own a business and to grow it. It's a very entrepreneurial type industry with real estate, and that appealed to me over some of the corporate opportunities that I had at that time. So I did end up going that way, and I have no idea if one of my sons will ever come into the business or not. My older son is graduate school for music management business at University of Southern California,
wow.
And he's really into the music management industry, and I think he's going to be successful there. So it's hard for me to imagine him coming back to Winston-Salem to do that, and my 17-year-old's too young to know what he's going to do. So we'll see where that goes, but.
You mentioned some of the other businesses that you've invested in and grown. Talk about a few of those.
Well, primarily it was, I would consider a roll-up. So where smaller mom and pop type businesses joined together in order to offer something that, so the property management industry, for example, in Winston-Salem and in many cities was very mom and pop oriented. That's not a bad thing. That's another way to say small family business.
Yeah.
But quite often, maybe the mother was the bookkeeper and the father was the manager.
Sure.
And maybe they had one other employee. And when I kind of learned about buying businesses and finding creative ways to do that, I recognized that some of my competitors were ready to retire, and I became their retirement plan, that I was ready to buy their business. Others just maybe needed to make a change and move on, and I was there. But on a number of cases, they merged their business and joined in my business because it can be lonely being a very small business and being on your own. And I said, well, if you come and join us, we can do some things differently. We can help market your business and grow your business within ours. You don't have to stay up all night on the last day of the month and print statements. We have an accounting department for you.
Wow. Yeah.
How about a 401k? How about group health insurance? So a lot of people who were small mom and pops that could not provide that joined forces with me, and that's where those 12 businesses were that have helped us grow it into what it is today. And we're still doing that. Got maybe a deal to announce in the near future.
Ooh, that's exciting. Okay, I'm looking out for that. Can you give us a hint?
No.
Being very honest. Okay, no problem. Well, let's do this. Over the past 5 years, what has been your favorite project?
So my favorite project is probably one that we're right in the middle of right now. And the way I would characterize that is that being involved in downtown redevelopment, I feel like I helped a lot of other developers and investors to be successful in helping revitalize this downtown, and I learned some skills in that. But I wasn't actually maybe skin in the game a lot of those deals. I led the recruitment of HRI properties out of New Orleans to come to Winston-Salem and to redevelop the Nissen building. Very proud of the Nissen building project. It really was a kind of a tipping point for downtown redevelopment.
Yes.
I'm always proud when Jason Thiel, the head of the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership, speaks to groups, and he says that the Nissen building and the Mellow Mushroom were the tipping point deals in downtown redevelopment, and I brought both of those deals to fruition downtown. So, and again, with a team. There were a lot of great people involved in Nissen, but I did make the initial flight to New Orleans and tell those folks about Winston-Salem and about this great building we had and that led to this. Interesting quick side story on that is my wife and I were in Los Angeles. She had a teaching opportunity out there, and we went to the rooftop of the Standard Hotel. And on Friday afternoon, somebody told us that was the place to go. There was a swimming pool on the roof. And that's what I came back and pitched to the developers. We need a swimming pool on the roof of the Nissen building. So that might end up being my legacy with downtown redevelopment.
There you go.
Is getting the pool on the roof of the Nissen.
That would be interesting. Yes.
So that was a long way. I apologize. But currently, with some great partners, we've bought the Schaffner Inn, 1907 historic downtown mansion that's been a bed and breakfast for 30 years under great leadership of Henry and Betty Falls. And when it was time for them to move on from that, we acquired that and have done a good bit of remodeling. And it's really a great event center, place for weddings and rehearsal dinners and corporate functions and family celebrations. We've opened a restaurant a month ago called Founders Restaurant. Great place for breakfast and brunch.
Pretty good, yeah.
At the Schaffner. Please come on out. And then we're remodeling two side-by-side late 1800s homes on Summit Street.
Ludlow?
Colonel Ludlow, yes, sir, Tim, and Shepherd next door. And we'll operate those together as the Summit Street ends and have an additional 10 bedrooms there. We've built a beautiful courtyard between the two houses where people could have some functions there. And overall, this is going to be called, and is called now, the Historic Inns of Winston-Salem. And we'll manage it as a downtown boutique hotel opportunity.
That is amazing. That is amazing. So with all the development that you've done here in Winston-Salem, what has kept you to continue to invest here and to pour in here and partner with other folks to revitalize rather than, okay, I've done something in Winston-Salem and I'm going to venture outside of Winston-Salem and do something in Charlotte or LA or somewhere else?
Well, this is my community where I grew up. I love Winston-Salem and always dream about what it can be, and it's come a long way. During my career, it's been great to be a part of, and for all of us, I think, in Winston-Salem to have a lot of pride and what's going on and the direction that we're taking. I do venture out some into some other areas, and we actually do now have an office in Stanley County and Albemarle and manage a good number of properties down there. That was just kind of an opportunity I followed with some clients that acquired property in that area. But my main focus is the Triad. At one point, I did have a High Point and a Greensboro office, and sold that part of the business probably a dozen years ago or so. But Winston-Salem's where my heart is. That's where I love to work and enjoy having my career. And it's a great place, so it's a pleasure to work in Winston-Salem.
It is a great place,
Great
and
people,
it's wonderful
great place.
to work here. I agree 100%. If anyone's listening that is thinking about moving to Winston-Salem or investing in Winston-Salem, what are 3 things that you would say to convince them to do it?
Well, absolutely. When I've been involved in some search committees and recruiting people to move to Winston-Salem for key jobs in the community or whatnot, the first thing I would say is come here and check it out. Because when people come here and check it out, one gentleman that I was involved in recruiting, and he's got a key position in town now, I happened to have him here on the bike race weekend. And we're down at Bailey Park, and he saw all this, and he got to see what this community is kind of about.
Gears and guitar.
Like that, and that type of event and whatnot. When people come here and see that, I think they really get the vibe of our community and want to be here. Something that I think is unique, I'm on the Tourism Development Authority board that the county commissioners appoint, known as Greater Winston-Salem. As a matter of fact, the board meeting's at the Schaffner today at 2 o'clock. We're looking forward to having them there. But so we pitch what's unique about Winston. Why would somebody want to come visit here as a tourist? And I think we've done an exceptional job of redeveloping older buildings, preserving our history. Some cities that have had a lot of growth have torn a lot of that down. We've torn a few things down that maybe we regret some of those along the way, but there's a lot of historic preservation here. Okay, well, that's not a reason to move here, but we've brought it to life. Great things are going on in those buildings. Tobacco factories, Innovation Quarter, exciting activities in all those areas. Great restored buildings like Nissen Building and others. People are living in these buildings. So that's the part I like. We still have our history in our historic buildings, but they come to life and people go to Bailey Park and to Incendiary and other breweries that are in revitalized, rehabilitated historic buildings. That's a neat thing about Winston. And some people would say, well, don't all communities do that? But, look at the statistics. When we were advocating, including your organization, our organization, Greater Winston-Salem, for renewal of the state historic tax credits just a couple of years ago, they looked at it, and there'd been $1 billion worth of tax credit deals in North Carolina during that 10 years, and 600 million of them were in Winston-Salem.
Really?
We're truly a leader
Good for us.
in rehabilitating historic buildings. And so.
Wow.
And I enjoy the advocacy side of that, by the way. I know that the Winston-Salem Chamber is a predecessor of Greater Winston-Salem, but I've always been involved in the Chamber during my career. I was the local issues chairman several times, the governmental affairs chairman several times, and I love the chamber atmosphere, the Greater Winston-Salem atmosphere now, and I've always enjoyed working with y'all.
Well, thank you for working with us. I have to ask you one more question because you are so full of energy and you've been involved in so many things. How do you balance that with normal life? And when I say normal life, your family, you've got a wife, you've got kids. How do you do that?
Number one, I get that question a lot. But number two, I really feel like I have a very balanced and happy family life, and a couple of things. I don't do a whole lot of compartmentalizing. During the day, I might involve my family in something that I do, or a business thing might also be where we've made a whole lot of friends. I am very involved in the State and National Association of Realtors. My wife will travel with me to conferences, and a lot of our best friends have become the same couples and people who go to these conferences where we're involved in leadership. And we do the same thing with her job. My wife, Dr. Leslie Baldwin's head of foreign language for the school system in Winston-Salem, just received the national award for being the best district supervisor of foreign language in the country.
What?
In
Congratulations.
Boston 2 weeks ago. Very proud of her. And but I travel to her conferences, and I know her friends and that kind of thing. So it's a little combining business and pleasure there. But, I don't wake up and say, oh, I spent 2 hours on Habitat or an hour on homeless issue and realtor leadership and running my business or Tourism Development Authority. I make it all work together. Things work together, and I enjoy it. So
I love that.
It's a good balance, and we I'm not saying that I'm always working. I definitely am not. We enjoy a lot of family time and activities with our boys and that kind of thing too.
I love that. I love that. That's something to think about, everybody listening. Don't compartmentalize. Bring your family into it and enjoy everything together. I love that.
And the second answer is I do have great teams with everything I'm involved in.
That's so important.
I've just been very, very fortunate at Baldwin Properties to build a great team, and in the historic ends of Winston-Salem to have a great team, and in the other community things to work with teams. So that's my advice too, is a lot of people who are really stressed out about work are trying to do too much themselves instead of working as a team. It makes it work better for everybody.
It makes such a difference. It does. Lou, thank you so much for being here today. And before we go, is there anything that you want to share with the audience that we didn't touch on today?
Feel free. I enjoy mentoring in the community. I enjoy meeting people. Somebody will call and say, I'm thinking about getting in real estate. My company doesn't really do residential sales. We're a commercial and investment type company. But because I've been maybe state president and local president and whatnot for the realtors, I'm like, please come talk to me. I'll tell you about those residential companies you're considering and some of their characteristics, but not just real estate. I enjoy when somebody calls and says, hey, how do I plug into the community? You're involved in things. How do I do that? So that would be my other message is feel free to give me a call, and I'd love to meet you and get together.
That's perfect. So if somebody wants to give you a call, how do they reach you?
My direct line, 336-201-0265, L. Baldwin at baldwinco.com.
And your website?
www.baldwinco.com.
Perfect. Lou, again, thank you so much for being here today. And for everyone listening, until next time. We know you enjoyed this podcast today, so join us for the next episode of Greater Conversations. By the way, you can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Be sure to smash that subscribe button. Also, be sure to visit our website at winstonsalem.com. The views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and not necessarily those of our sponsors, distributors, or hosting companies. This podcast is copyrighted and cannot be reproduced without expressed written consent of Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. or your toast.